thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
From Rio de Janeiro to St. Louis, Missouri, the UFC is back stateside with a heavyweight main event between Derrick Lewis and Rodrigo Nascimento for a UFC Fight Night on Saturday. And UFC Best Bets has got you covered from a gambling perspective. As always, here to talk about it, that main event, and as well as every other fight on the card. Hello, everybody. I am Brett Okamoto, alongside my partner, as always, Ian Parker, who promised you a bounce-back weekend at UFC 301, and the duck delivered. Go ahead, take it away. Give us our recap of UFC 301, Mr. Parker.
Yeah, we had a pretty solid night. We went 4-2 in our best bets. Our man Anthony Smith, he couldn't wait until a round and a half. He had to get it done too quick. So we hit Pantoja, the Martinez play. I should have known better to play against Aldo and Rio. That's my fault. Brito, Rufi, and Costa all hit pretty cleanly and early. We hit our parlay at plus 158. We hit our prop of the night at plus 100. Very solid night. I would say that's a bounce back. Let's make it 2 in a row in St. Louis.
I mean, it could be like 20, 30, and Aldo could be 45 years of age, and I would not be betting against him if he is walking out in Rio de Janeiro with a crown on his head. You just can't take him. You cannot bet against the man down there in Rio de Janeiro. Let's talk about this UFC Fight Night main card. You can find it anywhere you like to watch fights on ESPN. It's on ESPN Linear. It is also on ESPN Plus. It starts at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. I already mentioned the Derrick Lewis, Rodrigo Nascimento heavyweight main event. You also got Joaquin Buckley, who publicly campaigned to be on this card in his hometown, taking on Nursultan Rusaboyev. Alonzo Mensifield taking on Carlos Olberg. And down there at the bottom, you see Robelis Despaigne, minus 240. A lot of attention on him, a lot of excitement around him in that heavyweight division. But we will start with the main event. Derrick Lewis taking on Rodrigo Nascimento. We've seen Derrick Lewis in this spot. He's very comfortable here in the main event. Nascimento, not so much. You have seen in the heavyweight division, these opportunities come up big, man. I mean, these guys get these opportunities against seasoned veterans in main events quickly because of the division. They like to put it on display. It's a little bit thin. Is Nascimento ready for the spotlight, or will this be Derrick Lewis night in St. Louis?
I think it's got to be Derrick Lewis night. I think this is probably one of the better matchups he's had in a really long time. It's not like he hasn't fought guys that can grapple before. We know that Nascimento would have the advantage if it hits the ground, but his striking is less than desired. It's average at best. And Derrick Lewis looks like he's in great shape. He said in an interview the other day that he's at the lowest weight he's ever been in going into a weight cut week. You know, I know he lost to Almeida. Prior to that, the Lima fight came out with a flying knee. I think the athleticism plays in his favor here. It's funny, he mentioned that he's tired of doing these main events. He'd rather fight 3 rounds, although I don't think this fight's going to go there. But I think Derrick Lewis is athletic enough, good enough to keep this fight on the feet, get the knockout, and I think he gets past Nascimento. I think this is a fight where he's not fighting another big name. He's not fighting someone who's trying to get to the next level per se. You know, this is, I think, the right fight for Derrick Lewis at this point in his career to get back in the win column and then climb up the ladder. So let's go with Derrick Lewis here on the money line. The number keeps climbing. You know what? And Brett, I'll take it a step further. Prop of the night, Lewis by TK or KO at minus 135. Sign me up.
All right, so we got a pick for Derrick Lewis in the main event, and you know, it's funny that you mentioned his weight, because I think sometimes we can get carried away with making fight week observations, but in Derrick Lewis's case, I don't think so. It's always good to sort of feel him out and see if you're going to get a motivated Derrick Lewis, especially against a guy who's going to be looking to grapple him and maybe exhaust his gas tank early. Let's move to the co-main event. Joaquin Buckley, a minus 130 favorite against Rusaboyev. Fun fight here, and again, one that Buckley very, very much wanted at home. Does he get the job done, or does Rusaboyev shine here as an underdog?
You know what? I don't know the answer when it comes to a side here. Rusaboyev, to me, is such a question mark. You know, his first fight he won, his second fight with the eye poke, and you got a guy in Buckley who looks great against Luque. You know, Morano he's been on a nice little win streak, and we know he's got the skills. But he's fighting someone with a lot of question marks, a lot of first-round finishes, but hasn't fought this high level of competition. I do think Buckley is a very solid fighter here. I think for Buckley, he's got to get out of the first round and drag this into the second, third round, where Rusaboyev is just not all that familiar with for the most part. So I'm going to take a stab here at over 1.5 rounds. The number's pretty low. Unless Buckley gets flatlined in round 1, I just don't see it happening. He's very good at striking, keeping a distance. It may turn Rozaboyev into a grappler here, but for me, I think this fight goes to the end of round 2, early round 3, as long as Buckley does not get tagged in round 1.
All right, so we're taking the over there in the co-main event. Let's move on to the rest of this main card, which has some fun fights on. And we're starting light heavyweight. It's Alonzo Mensifield taking on Carlos Olberg. Mensifield, pretty sizable favorite here. Or I'm sorry, pretty sizable underdog against Olberg. Olberg is minus 270. Is that too high, or we like Olberg here?
Listen, there's a lot of hype behind Olberg still, although Mensifield has beat better fighters. He's overcome adversity in the Dustin Jacoby fight, namely, in Erlberg. He's suffered a knockout that he's come back and won a few. I think this fight's going to go over 1.5, even though you have 2 power punchers here. I think both guys are going to respect the power, and they're going to be afraid to make a mistake. So I think if a knockout or finish does happen, look for it towards the end of round 2. Let's go over 1.5, but I don't mind if people take a stab at Alonzo.
All right, from there we go to Diego Ferreira taking on Mateusz Rebecki, and you like the under here at minus 180. Why?
I do. Listen, Diego Ferreira got the knockout in his last fight, but up until that punch, he was not looking good. Rebecki is a force. He's very powerful. I think he can take this fight to the floor. And people are forgetting, Diego Ferreira is 39 years old, father time, never loses. I think Rebecki gets it done kind of early here, so you could even look at a TKO for him. But under 2.5, I think at minus 180 is a pretty solid play.
And another potentially fun stylistic fight, Alex Caceres, who has a knack for cashing as an underdog. He's an underdog once again here against Sean Woodson, but you don't like Caceres as the underdog here. You see some value on Woodson at minus 210?
You know what? When I played this, I think Woodson was a little bit lower. He's got tremendous reach. I don't think Caceres takes him down. I think Woodson also has a submission upside here. I would take Woodson to win by decision or submission. If you can get that prop in there, you'll get better odds. And I think that's the way I would go.
Okay, and then rounding out this UFC Fight Night, you got Waldo Cortez taking on Despaigne and minus 240. A lot of hype around this man. Well, you like Despaigne here, and you got your long shot prop on it.
Yeah, I think round 1 TKO KO, he could do it again. His reach is crazy. He's got the good stand-up. He's fighting another stand-up guy who just throws a right hand with nothing else behind him. I think this is another spot for Robellis to get it done. So TKO KO, and then a TKO KO in round 1. I'm playing this guy until it's time to fade him against a strong wrestler.
All right, so Despaigne at plus 110, getting it done in the first round. Ian willing to make that his long shot prop of the night. Let's talk about the prelims here. You can find them on ESPN Plus. Why don't you just run us through your prelim picks for this UFC Fight Night?
I'm going over 1.5 with Hooper and Slava-Claus here. Look, this fight's going to be interesting. Everyone, if you look online, it's Hooper. Is he going to take the back? Is he going to be able to box? I think Hooper is going to be able to get into the second or third round. I think he's got to just really be able to handle the striking and make this a grappling match. So the next fight, Terrence McKinney versus Ribovic, I would take McKinney, but after round 1, look live to go Esteban's way. The theme of McKinney's career, he's got all the talent in the world, but he has shown us after round 1, he loses track and then he loses. So round 1, if it gets past it, switch the other way. Let's go Baby Shark, Tabitha Ricci over Tisha Pennington. I think on the striking, it's even. On the floor, Ricci all day. I'm going with Billy Goff over Trey Waters. I think him as an underdog here at that number makes a lot of sense. He's got the striking. He can make this a dog fight, which Trey Waters does not want to do. This next fight, Johnson-Hadley, very interesting. I'm going to lead Hadley's side here. I don't love the number. I think it should be a little bit lower, but I do think he's the better striker. I think he could also take the back of Charles Johnson. Johnson tends to fight from behind in every fight. I don't think he'll be able to do that against Hadley if he drops the first round. Next, I'm going to go with Kevin Jousset here. I don't even mind playing minus 220. Gooden's got good durability, but Jousset is massive for this size. Last but not least, give me Veronica Hardy over J.J. Aldridge.
All right, so there are your prelim picks, and let's move right on to Parker's parlay for St. Louis.
We are zipping right through this today. We're going to go Rebecki, Woodson, Robellis, and Hadley Johnson over 2.5 at plus 254. The only one that kind of scares me a little bit is Woodson. He gets a little cheeky with his fight IQ sometimes, but after that last fight against Jourdain, I think he knows where he has to be. And I kind of like this one. I think we're going to get it 2 weeks in a row.
All right, so there's your Parker's parlay, and from there we'll go to the long shot parlay. What kind of odds we getting here on the long shot this week?
Pretty solid at plus 1,061. I'm going to go Ricci by decision, Rebecca KO, TKO, and Billy Goff. Three-legger, two of them method of victories. I think very realistic here. Loving those odds.
All right, so close to 11-1 there on the Longshot Parlay. And the last order of business is our best bets for this Saturday.
Yeah, I'm pulling back a little bit. We had a good week last week. However, I just didn't want to force any plays, so I'm going with the four that I really liked. I like Derrick Lewis here on the money line. If you want to take him at TKO KO, it's not that much less. I think it's floating around minus 160 right now. Buckley Ruzabov over 1.5. I still think that's going to come down to Buckley not getting tagged and really using that jab and fighting from a distance. Let's go Ricci over Pennington. And Kevin, you said I wouldn't play this any higher. I think he is the more well-rounded fighter, the bigger, better athlete here. Gooden is a zombie, great durability. He's not the better fighter. Giuseppe gets it done.
I like it, man. As much as I love those spreads of 6 best bets, you don't want to force those. That is the last thing you want to do with best bets. We are not forcing anything on the show. We want to give you good value. We want to give you good info. And sometimes there's going to be 4, and sometimes there might be 10, knowing Ian Parker. I wouldn't put it past him. But 4 this week for UFC Fight Night. Again, you can find it 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Thank you so much for watching UFC Best Bets. Hopefully you were riding the hot streak last week, the bounce back week, and we'll keep it going here in St. Louis. We'll see you at the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.